So now I'm going to show you what to do with extra firm tofu. Now this is the tofu that I like to use when I'm barbecuing or doing a stir fry, anything that kind of requires a meat substitute. So what I'm going to make with this is tofu fingers, basically kind of like chicken fingers, but with tofu. So like I said earlier, it's very important when working with tofu that you marinate it properly. So the first thing we're going to do with our tofu, and you don't necessarily have to do this, but it is advisable, is we want to press any excess water out of the tofu. And how we do that is we take the tofu out of the package, and then in a clean towel, we're going to wrap it up. Then we're going to take 2 plates, one that the tofu is going to sit on, and then one that's going to be on top of the tofu. And then we put something heavy, like a big can, on top of it. And we're going to let that sit for half an hour to an hour. And that's basically just going to draw out any extra liquid in there and give it a bit of a firmer, meatier texture. So while the tofu is being pressed, I'm going to make a simple marinade for our tofu fingers. So a marinade can be anything that you like, really. It's whatever you want to flavor it with. So I'm just going to be using some soy sauce, some hoisin sauce, bit of maple syrup to sweeten it up a little. I'm going to put some Frank's Red Hot in there because I want these to have a bit of a spicy flavor to them. Just a few drops. And I'm also going to put some crushed garlic. And then I'm just going to whisk that all together. Now, if you have a favorite marinade of yours, you could use that. Really, it's just to flavor the tofu. Okay, so that's all set and ready to go. Okay, so my tofu has been sitting for about half an hour now. So it's ready to work with. So I'm just going to unwrap it. And you'll notice that the towel will be fairly wet. And now I'm just going to slice the tofu into finger-sized pieces. Now, if I were making a stir fry, for example, I'd probably cut these into small cubes. If I were grilling it, I'd probably leave it like that in a big slice. Whatever you do, don't just put the whole block in the marinade because the outside will get nicely marinated, but then the inside, like right at the center of it, will be flavorless. So it's better to cut your tofu however you want it to be in your dish before you marinate it. Okay, so there I've got my fingers. I'm just going to put them in a sealable container. And now I'm going to pour my marinade over it. And the reason why I like to use something like a Ziploc container, which is sealable, is that I can then flip it and just generally shake it around in there so that everything is completely covered. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in the fridge, and with tofu I like to let it sit for the majority of the day. So for example, if I were making tofu fingers for dinner, I would marinate the tofu in the morning and let it sit all day until I was ready to use it that night for dinner. If you don't have that much time to wait, let it sit for at least an hour, because it really does need to absorb those flavors. And obviously, the longer you let it sit, the more the flavors will be absorbed. So that's why I'm going to let this sit all day before I cook it. So my tofu has been marinating for the better part of the day now, and I'm ready to use it. So I'm going to heat up some oil in my pan. And I'm setting that to medium heat. So while my oil is heating up, I'm going to bread my tofu. And so what I'm going to be using for my coating is I have in a Ziploc bag some cornflake crumbs. And then to this, I'm adding a mixture of spices. I've got some garlic powder, onion powder, parsley, thyme, some paprika, and salt and pepper in here. So I'm just going to add that to there and then just give that a bit of a shake around. Now I'm going to take a few fingers at a time and drop them into my bag. Just shake off any excess liquid. Do about 6 fingers at a time. And then I'm just going to shake them up. And then remove them and place them in my frying pan. Okay, so I've got all my fingers in the pan now, and I'm going to cook these for a few minutes per side until they get brown on each side. So I'll cook these for about 4 or 5 minutes, and then I'll flip them and brown them on the other side. These are getting nicely browned on the one side, so I'm going to go ahead and flip them. Okay, so these are nicely browned on both sides, so I'm going to go ahead and remove them from the pan, and I'm just going to put them on a plate lined with some paper towel just to pat off that excess oil. So there's our finished product, some delicious crunchy tofu fingers made with extra firm tofu. So that wraps up our lesson all about tofu. I hope that you have learned something today, and I really hope that the next time you're in the grocery store, you won't be so afraid to actually pick up that tofu and buy it and do something with it. As I've shown you today, that tofu is so versatile. You can do so many different things with it, from using it in dips and sauces to replacing eggs with it, and then even using it as a meat replacement. It is such a versatile product. I really encourage you to start going out there and start making some tofu recipes of your own.